Hi, this is Arbz Chess. Today we have another instructive game between Carlsen and Topalov, played in Nanjing 2010. At the same time, we are learning the Ruy Lopez Anderssen Variation. White played on the fifth move, d3. So let's start. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5. This is the Ruy Lopez opening. Black played a6 in the game. We call this the Morphe defense. It invites white to take the knight on c6, which defends the pawn on e5. Now if white takes the knight, d takes c6, then if you take the pawn on e5, it looks like white now has the advantage. But why this is a mistake? Because it gives black an initiative after played d4. This time the queen attacks the knight and the pawn on e4. At the same time, black opens up his two bishops. Usually white is not taking the knight on c6. So in this position, Magnus Carlsen played bishop to a4, which is the main move also of the Ruy Lopez. Let's continue. Black played knight f6, and here, and white played d3. A simple move for white that defends the pawn on e4. Also, it activates the bishop. After this, black played b5, attacking the bishop to b3, then bishop to e7. Magnus Carlsen castled. Black played d6. Black now protect the pawn on e5. One of the idea of this is now black is planning to play knight a5 to attack the bishop, because here if black played knight a5 right away, the pawn on e5 is hanging. So instead, black played d6 first. Now the threat is to play knight a5. In this position, you have some choice for white. You can play c3 after knight a5, and you can put your bishop on c2. But Magnus Carlsen played a move a4. It puts pressure on b5, and even if you play knight a5, the bishop can move back to a2. That is the idea of white. In the game, Topalov played rook b8, Magnus Carlsen played e takes b5, a takes b5. Now white control the a file. Knight bd2 has been played, black castles, and rook e1. In a Ruy Lopez opening, this is a typical strategy for white because it clears the f1 for the knight, which this knight can maneuver to g3 and occupied the f5 square. When you play c3 later on after c3 g4, this rook adds defense to e4. So let's continue. Topalov played bishop d7, and now Magnus Carlsen played c3. The point of this is to play d4. Also, it clears the square for bishop. Later on, this bishop will move to c2 to put pressure on the king side. Rook a8. Magnus Carlsen take the rook on a file. Queen takes a8. Now d4. Black played h6. And here, white played knight f1. This knight will go to g3. Looks like white now is controlling the game. Okay, but this is totally equal. Rook e8 has been played, knight g3, which is a typical strategy for white. The idea of this is to occupy f5, but not directly, since white has the idea of knight h4, and these two knights will occupy the f5. Queen to f5, and here knight h4. See? So if you're playing the Ruy Lopez opening, f5 is a critical square that you can occupy. And black cannot easily play g6. Obviously, h6 is hanging. And you can even take the knight, the pawn on g6. The pawn on f7 is pinned. In this position, white has the advantage. Bishop f8 has been played in the game. Of course, you want to put the knight on f5, which is the idea of knight h4, but Carlsen played another idea. He played a move knight to g6, and Topalov surprised with this move. The idea of this is to take the bishop, and Magnus Carlsen having a bishop pair. Knight e5, knight takes f8, rook takes f8, and here, what would you play as white? Do you want to give up the bishop on b3? No. In Ruy Lopez, white played bishop c2. Bishop is an important piece that would put pressure on the king side. But before that, I would like to highlight, if you are curious, what if knight takes b3 first? There is knight takes d7, knight takes e1, knight takes f6 check first, and g takes f6, queen takes e1. It gives white a clear advantage. The king is now exposed, and the blacks has a lot of weaknesses on the king side and a very bad structure. Okay, so let's go back to this position. So after bishop c2, rook e8, and now white create a pawn breakthrough, f4. He wants to challenge the pawn on e5. If black takes it, just take with the bishop, and we know that if you have the bishop pair, it's very important, or it's very effective once the position is open. So after f4, black played bishop g4. Now for white, you play queen d3. You have now a possible plans on h7, but not yet this time. So let's continue. Black played e takes f4, bishop takes f4, and knight c4. In this position, white should not be in a hurry to play e5. Don't give any chances for black. b2 is under attack. Magnus Carlsen played bishop c1. A simple and a good decision for the word number 1. Looks like black now has no counterplay. Everything is under control. c5. This is an interesting move for black. What if you play b3? After knight b6, you will capture b5. It looks like white now has the advantage because you have more material. But here, black has a very strong continuation, which is queen c takes d4, queen takes b6, and queen takes c3. The rook is hanging, and the bishop is hanging. So after c5, Magnus Carlsen did not play b3, but instead he played a move rook to f1. Now there is a chance where Magnus Carlsen will sacrifice his rook on f6, followed by bishop takes h6, which gives him an initiative attacking the king side. In the game, white capture the pawn on t4, c takes d4, queen to d8, protecting the knight on f6, h3. A simple prophylactic idea. It attacks the bishop, it gives a square also for the king. Bishop to e6, and here Magnus Carlsen kicked the knight on b3. Now if the knight moves to b6, this is a clear pawn up for white, and black has no counter chances. So in the game, instead of moving the knight, Topalov played queen a5. If you take the knight, bishop takes c4. Black has some compensation with this move. So white played a move that white played a prophylactic move which removes all the black's counterplay, which is king to h2. Look at this. This is now very safe for white. Black is just hoping that white will take his knight, bishop takes e4, but Magnus Carlsen played king h2. Knight h7. He moves the knight, because if you don't move the knight, if you play something else, then Magnus Carlsen will sacrifice his rook on f6. e5. What is the threat? Obviously, the threat is to take the knight on h7. Black is forced to play g6. Some players will take the pawn h6. This is also good, I think, for white, but Magnus Carlsen played stronger move than that. Can you find a move for white? You can pause the video and find the best move for white. And if you can find it, you're like Magnus Carlsen. Okay? So now, white played, Magnus Carlsen played a move, t5, attacking the bishop. Now the pawn on e5 is undefended, so black took it. When you're under attack in a position like this, don't react immediately, but find a move, a forcing moves, a good counter attack. But of course, in this game, Magnus Carlsen already calculated all these lines. So instead of moving his queen, he found a brilliant move, d takes e6. And this is a forcing combination. If you take the queen, then he takes f7 check, king to f8, another move, bishop to h6 check, king has to move, then take the rook, promote with a queen, king has to take, then bishop takes d3. In this position, Topalov resigned the game. There is a threat also of g6, taking the pawn attacks the king and the knight. And look at Magnus Carlsen king. It's very safe here. See? In this game, Topalov completely outplayed by the world number 1, Magnus Carlsen. So hope you enjoy this game, and you can try this out when you play chess. Especially if your opponent played e5, you can try this line playing d3 in a Ruy Lopez. See you next time, and thanks for watching.